Kind of interesting. A lot of these patches are from bullet holes.
It's not often you see a UH-1 this disassembled.
It's overwhelming. There's a lot to be done.
That's before it becomes the centerpiece of the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial near Sumter Amphitheater.
And then keeping critters out. So there's a lot of things that have to happen that people don't.
22-year Army veteran Ron Elwell is one of the folks trying to put this Huey back together again.
And I saw two older gentlemen sitting off in the corner with the hats on that were Vietnam veteran hats. And I said, well, here, Carlos, check this out. This is what it's about, man. Those guys didn't get the welcome home that I got. So I do it to all Vietnam veterans. I walked over, introduced myself, and I just said, welcome home. But actually started telling me stuff, and they're like, yeah, what'd you do in the military? And I said, well, I was a helicopter mechanic. And then they're like, oh, funny, because we just got a helicopter. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, how's that working? And they're like, well, we don't have anybody with helicopter experience. We have all these Air Force guys that have jet experience. I was like, well, I started off on a Huey and Cobra. Got hooked up with Dylan here at the Iowa Western, and we just went from there.
There's only so much I can do. So
DylanDriscoll is the program chair in the aviation department at Iowa Western.
It's really great to just be able to, catch a glimpse of their experience, and the younger students, they get in touch with these guys, and I think that's the crucial connection, because these older people have skills that are going away. A lot of young people aren't interested in these skills anymore, so this knowledge is being lost, and I think that's just a tragedy. So I love bridging that generation gap so we don't lose all this mechanical knowledge.
A great example of this connection between students and veterans happened with the tail boom problem of this 1968 aircraft. You see, it was cut off before shipping.
So this is a unique experience of how we were going to do this, lining it back up. So it was cut, which did not need to be cut. It could have just been removed. The problem is we had to line everything up because this has to support some weight and it has to be structurally sound. It's not flyable, but it's going to be sitting up in the air. So I called a buddy that I knew was really good in structural, and he said, hey, I'll come up from Oklahoma and we'll spend 2 days and figure this out. So we got here, and kind of Dylan and I were on the right track, but he's like, hey, the only thing that lines up are the rivet lines. And I'm like, yeah, like, how are we going to do this? He's like, we're going to drill out pre-existing and we're going to splice it back together. We're like, sounds easy.
The two Army vets started the process of the repair, and then the students took over.
They already had the stuff that we'd set up, and they saw kind of how we did it. They manufactured it, and I was impressed. They sent me pictures, and I was like, holy smokes. These kids, I was like, that's a credit to the instruction here at Iowa Western and what those kids can do.
There is still a long way to go to get this bird in shape to survive decades of wind and weather,
the skids,
especially that wind part.
You went to the groundbreaking. Those winds that day I was like sitting there thinking to myself, man, I got to make sure that tail boom is straight and solid. So we came up with a plan, and it's working, and the kids ran with it. I mean, they did a great job so far. And
so that raises the question, why not just buy a helicopter that was good to go?
One, where's the fun in that? And two, I would say buying one that's finished is not the same as bringing one back. We're bringing another Huey out for people to see, people to enjoy, people to learn from. It's one more out there, not sitting in a field somewhere.
The Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial is scheduled to open May of 2023. And Ron has a plan to make sure this bird is ready to go.
This might be a little ambitious, but I'm going to shoot for August of this year. But I'm hoping that we can get really close to August of having everything back together and then start looking at paint and going from there. I want those Vietnam vets to walk in, and the first time they step on those grounds, that it almost brings them to tears, because we've done right by putting their history back together and having a place for them to go.
For Papillion Now, I'm Michael Severe.